Hello, hello. Welcome back to our next Let's Learn. So, we are covering Phantasy Star IV. Now, this is being played through Sega Genesis and Mega Drive Collection, which is no longer available on Steam. However, the advice and strategies I give you will be effective on any platform that you use to play Phantasy Star IV. So keep that in mind. There are certain quality lights here, like save states, and not need to constantly save that you will not have if you say, if you play this on original Genesis, you won't have access to that. So bear in mind some things. There's not many things, but some things here are not available in certain platforms. But this is played via it's delisted, as I said. But this is, what we did. Wrong said. Look. Recording was weird. And I don't. We never played Phantasy Star 2. We didn't do that. And I remember, I think back in the day, I played it a very long time ago, and it was before this whole collection came out. Phantasy Star 3, we may do it, but it requires some effort because, well, we'll get you share some things with 2 and 4. All right. So first off? What's it? Oh well. Trying to see. Trying to remember how we do that. Crap. The song, man, I don't remember. Okay, quick save. Yeah. Okay, there we go. So, yeah, sorry. Again, it's been a while. So if you look at this, you can do extra saves. So that's how long it's been since we played. This is, something only present in this version. Now then. So first off, early on, Phantasy Star is more like the classic JRPGs. It is from the 1990s and mid 90s when JRPGs were exploding because of Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest getting, both of them getting Western releases, and they're structured a little differently. So unlike, say, the Like a Dragon RPGs, or how some other RPGs we've covered, like BattleTech, you're basically need to think more like early Final Fantasy, and not, early Final Fantasy pre-PlayStation, so pre-7, where customization was not quite a thing past some shared stuff. I'll explain more. You basically have a linear tree. Your characters get unlock new stuff at certain levels. There's no extra paths or anything to gain access to skills. So what this means is Phantasy Star is along the lines of the main JRPG thought of the 1990s and even into the 2000s, which is grind. It's a game that is gated by grinding, could be in the sense of bosses and certain points of the game are level checks. They'll check and see if you're ready for that area. Some areas, until you try to go up against a wall, so to speak, you will not know what checks are. However, we will be going along and we will be telling you these checks ahead of time, so you do not need to worry because that's what I'm here for. So there'll be a lot of off-screen grinding and more. That being said, this is the first area, and we actually do have an unknown. Well, I shouldn't say unknown because by now it's obviously known, but underused leveling spot. And we'll go over to each party member as we get access to the party menu. Oh. Crap. I forgot how to get... Okay, there it is. Look, I know I should have checked it beforehand, but, you know, it's not a big deal. Plus, I mean, I'm here to entertain you. So, very early on, until you get access to your party controls, you're going to be stuck with slow text and everything. Well, since we're using the Sacred Genesis collection, we can actually speed this up. So it should be noted, this takes place 1,000 years after the events of Phantasy Star 2. So in Phantasy Star 2, this area is... Okay. Alright, so in Phantasy Star 2, this area is actually a grassland. And it's talked about constantly how the planet used to be much different during the time of Phantasy Star 1 and 2. Phantasy Star 1 takes place, it's the earliest in the timeline, and it takes place 2,000 years before this game. And this game takes place, 1,000 years after the events of 2. 2 is one that takes place 1,000 years after, the events of 1. So each game takes place 1,000 years after the previous game. That is actually intentional because that is part of the plot line about how the final boss only shows up once every 1,000 years. And in relation to Phantasy Star 3, I've talked about this many times in the Let's Learn. Well, not the Let's Play of that. We didn't do Learn, but we did play. That game got kind of done dirty. It is very much the black sheep of the Phantasy Star franchise, and it's unclear whether or not it's taking place 1,000 years after 2, or if it's taking place at the same time as 4. Most people think, it's probably in between 2 and 3, 2 and 4. But there is reason to believe that it's the same time as. So you're gonna want to put set your settings to. Now here you can customize it, A, B, and C. On a 360 pad that is cross A and B. And it's been so long I don't really remember what my setup was. You probably want to set it to what a lot of traditional stuff was, which is making the B button, which would be X on a PlayStation pad, and making that your speak button, which is common, A and X. Making C button being your cancel button. And you can also make a hard save. If you're worried about accidentally wasting progress or something, that's something I would suggest doing. Whoa, no. Oh, crap. We clicked the wrong buttons? Oof. Oh, we didn't confirm it. Oh. Dude. So this is something you gotta be mindful of. There we go. So yeah, goofy controls I know. Now the game will force you to talk to Alys to continue on. You can talk to the others to get some information. Alright. Alright, so let's look at our party members. Finally! I know, and look, hey. It's been a while, and this is... So, when Chaz there are a few periods in the game when Chaz is alone completely. This is one of them. I think there's actually only 2. He can talk to himself. No. Alright, so we can talk about stats here with the party members. So here you see your current, don't mind what it says underneath the name. It says Chaz and Hunter. Hunter, everybody has an assigned job. You cannot change this at all. So if you look at his hit points, that means how many hits he can take. Technique points is what it means by TP. This is the same thing as magic points or mana points in other RPG titles that uses the mana system. Basically, your techniques cost a certain amount, and as you level up, you get more TP and much more powerful techniques. If I remember correctly, the main party members will have their techniques and skills and all that finish unlocking in the level 50 range. You also see what kind of gear you have equipped. Chaz is unique in that he can use either he can either use dual knives, knife and shield, or a greatsword. For the most part, greatswords are his best option. However, there are times where you may want to consider using, double shield or double knife. They are rare, however, for him, as he will be your all-around best party member for melee until you get Rune. You got to see strength, mental, agility, dexterity, attack power, and defense power. These can be affected by buffs. You also, in this screen, you can see. Well, we're gonna get Alys first, but I want to talk about that in a different timestamp. All right, I gotta remember this one. All right, so it's hard to adjust to pause by not bringing up a start menu after so many hours of other RPGs that do this. All right, so status, Alys. Notice her age is hidden. This is a recurring joke in this game. So Alys is interesting because she is a ranged attacker. Ranged in melee does not actually matter much, unlike say in Final Fantasy, Final Fantasy 14, where being ranged and being melee matters a lot. Here, she's a ranged user. She uses dual boomerangs. And her skills cap out around level 21, if I remember right, maybe 17. Because she is actually, she is not obvious right now, but she is a temporary party member. And throughout the game, you're going to have temporary party members on top of your core 4 of Chaz, Reese, is it Reese or Rice? I think it's Rice, actually. Rika and Rune. So those 4 would be ones you want to prioritize over other party members. So notice she is stronger than Chaz right now, but has higher agility. For the most part, the female characters in the game will tend to veer towards higher dexterity and higher agility, while the male characters, aside from Raja and Rice, will veer towards being better physically. This is something that was actually common in some of the JRPGs, and even it's actually something that's you also see in D&D at the time. Like pre-3rd edition, D&D scores were males could max out strength, females were limited to either half of that or a little bit below it. But in some RPGs in exchange, women would make a higher value magic use, which is something you can see actually in Final Fantasy Tactics, where men have higher physical power, but women have higher magical power. This is at level 1. The upcoming remaster, I don't know if that's going to be changed or not, but I assume not, because it would require a core fundamental thing to get game mechanics that can be changed. Anyway, now that I'm done on my tangent, let's talk about techniques. So you can see what your character's techniques are in the character menu. You have to go in, look at the state, and then look at technique battle and technique camp. So on the left we have Foy, which is a fire spell, Shift, which increases strength, Feigner, which increases agility. And as a character grows, they may gain access to abilities that work in both or only in one area. Now, something to note about this game, buffs are actually kind of useful for the most part. Can caveman a lot of the enemies, but some are much more bearable if you take the time to buff up. Which is an interesting thing because in RPGs that follow after this, buffing becomes more important. And here we can see the skill screen. Again, battle and camp. Some can be used in battle, some can be used in camp, some can be used in both. And Earth is a skill that it's kind of crap. Like, let's be honest, a lot of the skills in this game are dubious at best in their use. So let's talk about the party order. So generally speaking, you can move your party members around. I would suggest having, when you get access to Rune, put him in front. It also changes what your party talk is. See, as you saw a few minutes ago, we saw something else with Chaz. Now, the reason why you want to have Rune up front is because enemies will prioritize the party members in front more often than not. So if you put your Rune, who has a lot of high, resists and high hit points, you put him up front, he'll take a lot of blows. Let's get this going. We're just going to use the fast forward button fastest. We're going to be doing a lot of that. I want to open up. There's actually an Easter egg in here. So this is talking about the events of Phantasy Star II, where the planet Palma, it was called Palma then, but now it's called Parma. It exploded with one of the seals of the profound darkness, which I'll explain later. And this is what I'm talking about, an Easter egg upcoming, where you actually do go to the Zolas. I can't remember if the dialogue changes after you've done that. Anyway, so you head on down. There's really not much else to do, other than looking, talking to some of the people, and you don't really see much. Alright, so Hahn joins the party. And you'll notice every time Hahn gets convinces Alys to let him progress, you'll get Masetta, equivalent to what she asks for. So let's talk about Hahn. So Hahn is kind of a fusion of... he's kind of like a Spellblade, in the sense of he's a mage who also has some healing powers, as well as a little bit of offense power, and also offensive magic. So Galoon is a debuff spell. Remember correctly, he slows all enemies down. Vision is something that increases dexterity, which can be useful during the period of time you have him. Hahn is also a temporary party member, but he becomes recruitable at the end game. So don't put too much effort into gearing up Hahn and Alys early on. Your core 4 party members are Rise, Rune, Chaz, and Rika. Those are the 4 you need to be prioritizing for gear. For a good chunk of the game, you will be stuck with only 4 people. Alright, so explore around. Something to know about boomerang users is they will attack all enemies on the screen. And I'll strongly recommend doing a little bit of grinding early on to get him to level 2, you know, to get your party members up to level 2 or 3. It doesn't take long in here, but we're not going to be doing that, so we're just going to move on. Most of these enemies will die in 1 or 2 hits. And unfortunately, being an old school JRPG, your encounter none it does not exist. You would have to modify the game. Now remember, when you level up, you do not automatically get the full healing. So keep that in mind. Make sure to grab all the chests in here, because this is a period in the game you're not revisiting. Make sure it's safe. Gotta get reused to these controls. So down here is where the boss is. Alright, so this boss has a very interesting, leveling spot. Basically, you can let him keep spawning over and over, and after you kill it as many as you want, you can just move on. You can use this to get to level 3 or 4. I would not suggest it to try getting to level 5 or higher. For the most part, bosses will be immune to your debuffs or otherwise enemy stealing action. We're gonna let him keep spawning for a bit. As long as you keep doing that, he will actually not attack. Because he's going to waste his turn on vision to that. We'll also talk about macros soon. Because for now, you do not need macros until you start getting certain abilities. Also note, this is the only time in the game this Igglanova strategy works. In the sense of letting him farm, because in later instances of an Igglanova showing, they will not give you bonus XP. We got a few of them. Boss down. And we got a good chunk of XP for this. Absolutely worth, right? So let's haul ass out of here. Heal up a little. When possible, use techniques over items, because items are a little bit expensive early on. Whereas you can rest in an inn room and full heal and full replenish. And during the mid-late game, get access to methods of recovering that are very nice. Too bad there's no auto scroll. I almost forgot. Phantasy Star IV marked a big turn in, JRPG design on story, in the sense of this was one of the first ones, if not the first, to incorporate cutscenes done this way. If you look at its contemporaries like Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest, they would have the character sprites come on screen, dialogue boxes doing dialogue or whatever, and sprites doing all that. However, Phantasy Star IV marked a change in the sense of we see anime style cutscenes. So let's take a look at how close he gets to level. A little bit far off. We've got 134 points to go. So this is a good time to do a little off-screen grinding. We'll be back soon. Alrighty, so we did a little grind off screen. Not much, but we got what we're looking for, because I want to talk about macros. So remember what I said a few minutes ago about macros? Well, this is why. Alright, so macros allow you to do special combinations or special orders of actions. So, like for example, you can set up a macro that you can use to start a game to put up all the buffs your party has, and then start either manually selecting actions or doing automatic ones. Think of it like a very primitive version of Final Fantasy XII's Gambit system. You would see this kind of thing in the Gambit system around 11 years later. Think of it like that. That's what I would say. Think of it like a primitive version of the Gambit system. Now, something about the game is they have combination attacks, where if you use specific spell combos or specific spell and skill combos, you can create a highly damaging attack. So here, now that Chaz is level 3, he has access to a certain combo. This is a very powerful one early on. Now, you have these people execute their actions in matters, because sometimes you can have the combo set up correctly, but because one person is faster than the others, the combo messes up, even though it technically is correct. So first I'll save. Now, This is a very powerful combo, early on. Okay, we didn't do it right. So we need to have the slowest person go first, which makes it more likely to work. This is where you can check your agility. So it should have been Hahn first. So if you played the sweet coding games, it's exactly like the Unite attacks in that sense of how mechanically it works. Notice that damage. So now you have something that will wipe out a lot of enemies between here and Birth Valley, and even into Birth Valley. This is a very powerful ability, but it drains your TP quickly. So you're going to want to stick around here and use this as a grinding area, or somewhere where you can replenish your TP quickly. Now let's talk about the shops. So something to know about shops is they are hard locked to their selection for the point in the game. So here we have this Piata, and they only have an item, tool store here. It's tools, but it's items, so same thing. They will only ever sell monomates here. As you progress into the mid and late game, shops that you gain access to in those towns will have better gear reflective of the area's power level. Meaning, early game shops will or never upgrade their gear. And it's also a good general idea of what kind of gear you should be looking to get at when you reach a new town. Let's move on. And since you get at least 30 Meseta each round, you go 3 or 4 battles tri-blasting until you run out for whoever's got the lowest amount. Yeah, and just have fun with that. So it becomes very profitable very fast to use Piata as a leveling area. So you get to like around level 7 or so, which does not take long if you're using Fast Forward and Tri-Blaster. So this is Mile, which is not our destination, but it does become relevant very soon. And we can also use this as a leveling area. So it's up to you if you want to take the time. Also, if you do get at least level 7. It's also an area where you can buy new weapons. So you got another tool shop, and as well as a weapon and armor store. At this point, we're going to go ahead and upgrade weapon for Chaz and get a cheap slasher. Whoop. There. You save a little bit of money by giving your old hunt knives to Hahn. Again, do not prioritize putting, gearing him up, because he is, for the most part, not somebody you need to be concerned about. And since we have Tri-Blaster, you can just grind out a lot. And again, you don't need to really worry much about, leather gear is kind of junky. You're not going to be, in terms of hour-wise, you're not very far away from getting a decent, early game upgrade. Let's get out of here. You'll notice that ominous tower, we'll be going there relatively soon. And notice the bridge is, thrown out. It's never really mentioned why, but whatever. At least I don't remember if they said why the bridge was thrown out. Because it happened after you did, Chaz and at least go to Piata. Now let's see. You go downstairs, find survivors. Notice everybody is, So notice there's a in tool store and weapon and armor. So you can't access this until you've resolved their petrification. Oh, it's been a while. Yeah, let's save that. And you have a useful shield for Hahn if you want to give, put a shield on him. I would just suggest going full balls out. Notice you'll find some familiar enemies here too. Or specifically guys from all the way back in, Kadary basement. We're just gonna back up a bit. Make sure to explore around. Alright, you want to die so quick, badly. So it says dying, but unfortunately we don't have a reser right now. Way to resing, which means we just got to trigger the story and get out. So I did not notice the hit points were low. Always keep your party topped up. Carbon suit is interesting because you can equip it on her. I want to show an Easter egg. Need to get out first though. Alright. I want to save that progress. So we're about to trigger a story step, right? Alright. Go all the way south to Molcum. We can get out of here anyway. Notice the music. Ominous, isn't it? Oh. Wait. Didn't we save after getting... So, you can be very frustrated easily with the counter raid, unfortunately. We forgot to save Oh, I don't know why I'm being... Sorry, I am being dumb. There we go. Didn't want to lose that progress, right? Alright, so don't be dumb like me. Let's head over to Mahlay for a quick flinch. Yeah. Now you can go to Molcum after that story step has been triggered. Dude. Nuisance. Notice what happened. Village is raised. Wait, making a research. Oh shit, dude. Okay, now I remember. I'm confusing him for the dude of 3. Dude, that's how long it's been. Confuse him for the main, the first character of Phantasy Star 3. Yeah, so Rune here is one of your core members. I don't know why I was saying that. Look, they wear capes. They both have blue hair. I'm just saying. It's been 5 years since we played these. Give me a break. So with Rune here, we have. All right. So with Rune, we have an interesting AoE clearing ability. So a big thing about the JRPGs of 90s is your screen clearing ability mattered a lot. So you can quickly clear enemies, do a lot of AoE damage, take out enemies, and win the battle. Spend less time wasting resources, right? So now we have a very powerful one this early on. Since this is using a skill instead of technique points, it has a set limit per rest. So we got 5 uses of this. However, when there's actually 2 different variations of this. I'll just put this in here, show it off. Alright, so let's get in a battle. So I want to show this. Notice the setup. This is for the Firestorm macro. Now, against enemies strong against fire, you'll do little damage. Against enemies that get weak against fire, you will do a massive amount of damage. Now let's look at the other version. So, for the most part, Boy is fire element, Wat is water and ice element, and Su is lightning. There is no lightning and Zen or Hune combo, but there is one for Wat and Hune or Wat and Zan. This applies for the entire tree in general. So let's demonstrate it first. And here you see the Firestorm and Blizzard. Now, something to know about the enemies. For the most part, most enemies on Motavia are resistant or strong against fire, so very weak against ice. So what in Blizzard magic in general. On Dezolis, it's the inverse. Most enemies are weak against fire, with some being strong against fire, but weak against it's weird, I know. And that is something important to know because near the end of the early game, you get areas with sandworms. Sandworms are very weak against ice. However, they have the ability to wipe out your party in one turn. So it's kind of tricky because you have to kind of hope you get lucky RNG early on until you get 2-turn kill them, which does eventually happen. So once you get access to the level 2 and 3 versions of Watt and Zun, you can start doing lots of damage per turn. So this is Krup. This is actually an area you can completely skip until the story brings you here. Go ahead and replenish. And here you can get carbon gear. I would suggest not, unless you are very, very rich and you tend to spend a long time in the area grinding, you can skip the upgrade. I wouldn't suggest wasting money on upgrades until you hit the ceramic area, which is Aiedo. Again, that's not very far from now. So this is Hahn's hometown. And this is actually something that it's interesting because it touches on a common trope in Western media about, rural workers disdaining higher education in favor of hands-on training at home. Take note of that pig, not pig, but the piggy dog, because that becomes relevant in the side quest later. So there are no weapons here. There's an inn, an armor store, and a tool store. Telepipe and escapipes are useful. Telepipe will allow you to revisit any previously visited town. However, you have to have visited them once, and it has to be a valid destination. This does, however, help mid and late game when you need to go across to multiple towns. And once you have access to the hydrofoil, you can unlock even more towns to visit that you cannot access until you have the hydrofoil. We're gonna get a couple of these because this is also an item replacement for the Ryuka power. Ryuka is a technique that Rune gets, as well as Chaz. However, they don't get it into the 20s. And here, Highness is a item that allows you to escape any dungeon. And again, it is something, that again. It's just another ability you get later, not too long from now. Weird. What else? Traversable. Anyway, Krup doesn't have much to do except right now. It doesn't have much to do except if you want to start a change. Okay, if you go into the little school here, you will meet Hahn's fiancée. And this changes story dialogue later, because if you don't go here, you don't go to Krup before you're forced to by the story, dialogue in there will change. I'll point this out when we get to it. Let's see, where is that school? I forget. Oh, walked out of town again. Some areas will have, some towns will have hidden areas that you can only access from going different directions. Ah, here we go. Also, important thing to know, for the most part, if a character has a portrait and they're important somehow in the story, this is actually averted with Saya, who doesn't actually do anything other than, yeah. Oof. Kids are damn cruel. The funny thing is, the kid's right. The kid is actually right. And I don't remember if it's ever followed up on. Oh boy. Alright, so off we go. Let's fall back a bit. We don't really need to grind right now. It's actually an important part of the story how magic used to be much more common. And it largely died out to the Espers, who show up when you get to the Desolate Arc. Let's clean these guys out. Let's see. Maybe gone the wrong way for loot. Loot here isn't really anything. There's nothing very special to miss out on. And in fact, there's very few areas in the game where there's loot that you cannot find somewhere else. That's something to keep in mind. I meant to do it as soon as he joined the party, but we'll do it as soon as we get out of here. Alright. Let's talk about Rune. Rune. So, notice he starts out at level 17. He's useful for leveling up via Tri-Blaster or Blizzard spam. And if you want to catch people up, this is a good time because you will have a person that has hard to deplenish resources unless you do Hune. Okay? Notice his ability. So, techniques wise, you see Boy, Wa, and Gra. He will get up to level 3 versions of these as well as other techniques. He also starts out with Hinas and Rika, so if you want to double back and get some items or something, he is your teleporter right now. And I was actually kind of wrong about that. It's Chaz who gets access to these later on. For some reason I'm remembering Rune not having these that early on. Possible I was probably thinking of something else. Now, Flayla, I don't know how it's pronounced, okay? I always read it as Flaylai. But it's probably Flaylee. Now, it's basically kind of a magic missile, if you're familiar with D&D. Basically magic missile, or closer to lesser missile storm. Hune is a wind spell, so if you're dealing with somebody who's strong against wind, don't use it. And if you're against somebody weak against wind, dude, use it. Now, Hahn works for anything that requires Zan, as we saw here with using Watt and Foy to create the storm, elemental storms. Rune, for the most part, is he will be your absolute best magic user in the entire game. He is the magic user. When you want to give him gear, give him double shield, because for the most part, you only need weapons to do melee attacks when you're out of resources. And Rune has pathetic defense. Shields will give him huge defense, and it's something I highly recommend. And Rune's about to lead the party, so if you really want to do some grinding to bring everybody up to level 8 at the minimum, or 9, this will be the time to do it. While he is in the party, and you can create crazy farming with Blizzard. Now, this place does have a tool store, an armor store, and a weapon store. However, they are unmarked and they are in the bazaars. The stalls here. So, Tonoe sells titanium gear, which is a very strong upgrade. And if you find you really need the upgrade, go ahead and get it here. Otherwise, you may be able to hold out until you get back to Aiedo, which has some pretty strong early game upgrades. Now, you notice you have 2 people and you're about to get a third if you use Titan now. Do not buy 3 sets, because your next party member comes with a full set of Titan gear. And again, you don't unless you are grinding an incredible amount and you can afford it, don't bother gearing up Alys. She will not be in the party very long. The weapons are usually cheaper than armor. Considering he's selling leather gear, we should probably actually go ahead and get him Titan armor. Oh, and something to note about certain characters: when they get ready to leave the party, strip them of gear, because you will not get back any gear you put on them. And since Rune is about to leave the party, we are going to. Wait, can we just buy? Wait a minute, hold on. Don't tell me I just messed up. Oh, we didn't buy it. Oh, we didn't have the money for it, did we? No, we bought the armor, so yeah. Look, again, it's been a few years. As a side note, the only person in the game who can use double, two-handed swords is Chaz. So you do not worry about keeping that gear around for anybody else. Nobody else will be using two-handed swords. So since Rune's about to lead the party, we're going to strip his gear. This is how you unequip. When you get to somebody's page, you hit the left directional button or the left analog stick, depending on which way you're using to control the game. and these are Molcum survivors. You know, my first thought is I prefer not to speak. If I speak, I'm in big trouble. Big trouble. I prefer not to be in trouble. And there's actually, he says at this stage of the game that Chaz is no match for him. It's often interpreted as a meta comment in the sense of we are level, what's it? Yeah, we're level 5. Zio is somebody you take on in the level 20 plus range, preferably 25. All right, so let's talk about Grice. Grice comes with a full set of titanium gear, as I said, and he will be a party member until the end of the Zio arc. So you may want to consider upgrading his weapons at some point. Upgrading his weapons a little bit. That's not what I wanted. Alright, so let's talk about him. So Grice, Motavian is his job quest. So Grice is, for the most part, just a strong melee warrior. He is stronger than Chaz is for this point in the game. Chaz later on will get access to better gear, and by the time you get Grice again in the party, he'll probably be superior to Grice. Now, this is a technique I've never really understood. As far as I can tell, it only works on mechanical enemies. And I think it has a chance of insta-killing. Same with Crash, which works kind of like a one-hit kill against mechanical enemies, for the most part. Of course, I could be remembering the wrong one here. But anyway. And now you see her dialogue changes once he's in the party. So yeah, if you try to go here without Grice in a party. Yeah. So this is a little bit of a difficult spike area. However, if you still have the Tri-Blaster set up, then you can get through it relatively easily. Make sure to explore around. There are some nice little treasures here. Ah, crap. So we need to go back up and rest. Notice you get 120 Meseta here, so this is actually a pretty decent spot if you want to just use Tri-Blaster to clear it, screen clear and get some money for titanium gear. Each titanium piece takes about, depending on which one you get, for armor it takes around 10 battles. So keep that in mind. Get over here. Ooh. But yeah, this is an area you will definitely consider. Yeah. So this is definitely a bit of a gear check because the things in here hit hard. we have. Could get a set. I'd rather just save the money for now. Let's see how far back we can go. Yeah, save here. Okay, yeah, just abuse the hell out of the save and, you know, fast forward and rewind if you are playing a version of Phantasy Star IV that has it. Because the old school games had some very questionable difficulty because of things that would become quality life in, you know, in PlayStation and then so on generation. You know, this is a 4th generation game. Okay, can't pop any more Tri-Blasters for now. And free Titan Crown. But make sure not to buy, you know, gear for Alys because you can find some free upgrades along the way. Again, he is not a permanent party member, so ultimately you should stop upgrading her at after a certain point. And if you didn't already have an escape freebie. So let's rest up before we go. Now, depending on whether or not you have grinded up Chaz enough to access Ryuka, you may need a telepipe to quickly go back. And you automatically use it in a cutscene. Remember I said before about Igglanova? Yeah. Can't use that trick here this time. Yeah, you can't use that XP farm trick. You shouldn't need to anyway. Oh, that's right. Rose works on organics. Crash works on mechanical. And if you somehow missed your items from first time around, just come back in and get them this time. But we're going to head straight down. Oh, quick save. Now this is a one-time area. You are going to want to, explore around, make sure you grab everything you can here. Some areas cannot be revisited. And we're going to this apparently. And this is a problem with the game. It's absurd encounter rate. Gear paralysis. This is a useful item for the entire game. Try to have some of them around when you don't have access to someone who can cure it with spells or abilities. Quick save, because I'm a little bit worried. Yeah, that's why right there. Woof. These guys hit very hard. Okay, good. He's got crosscut, which is a great, DPS spell. As strange as it is to say that in this game. Also, if you're playing on something that does not have a save state function, like what we have here, you cannot save inside a dungeon. Something I forgot to talk about. Sorry. Okay, this is the story. Damn. Oh. Yeah, this is actually a progressive story. Yeah, I kind of forgot, okay? Either way, you want to explore and get the items. Because again, this is a one-time area. It's never revealed what is through there. The hell we can't get us out of here. Yikes, man. Don't be afraid to manipulate game RNG, because the old school games are a pain in the ass, trust me. They're enjoyable, but they have a lot of problems. Ah, upgrade. So this is also something you could have skipped out on the titanium sword for. A ceramic sword does a lot of damage for this point of the game. And we got booty blasted. So something to know about this game, it's in the series, the revive. Okay, so you know how Final Fantasy has Phoenix Downs, and some other games will have equivalent to that. Phantasy Star is notorious for not having free access to that. You have to wait until the mid and late game to start getting access to that, which is a very interesting thing considering how Final Fantasy and other games with functions like that exist. It's because of that to an unprepared player, Phantasy Star is actually a harder game series than Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest, because again, you don't have free access to resurrection techniques until the mid and late game. Whereas you can buy Phoenix Downs from usually your first town in a Final Fantasy game. And this is Rika. He is a permanent party member. If you're coming here from Phantasy Star 2, yes, she is an improved Nay. He's literally, the game's version of Nay, but she's also the improved version. Let's get to the cutscenes. We got all the loot here. Notice that it talks about Demi, an android. Yeah. Dial's Tower. See, like I said, we do have to go there at some point. And like I said, the prototype he is talking about is Nay from Phantasy Star 2. So I know I'm skipping the cutscenes a bit, but yeah, he does talk about that in this cutscene. And Birth Valley is no more, so that is an entire missable zone. If you do not get the items there while you're there, you can never get them again. You end up having to buy them somewhere else, or just not have them at all. Notice, okay, so let's talk about Rika. Notice what weapons she has. She uses claws, and she gets access to some very strong ones later. And she uses a suit and crown, so you can give your spare crown to Alys. And honestly, it'd probably help a lot at this point. Now let's talk about her, abilities. Okay, so she's a Numan, new human, which is what Nay was. And she levels up very fast. This is because is meant to catch up to your party quickly. So when you start leveling her up, you'll notice she levels up very fast and then kind of catches up to everybody else in speed. So, technique-wise, she will get access to mostly buffs and healing. She does get access to resurrection magic not too long from now. I think the 20s is when she gets access to it. She gets access to something that will increase her agility via illusion, and she also gets access to damage abilities and some interesting applications that you can use. there's actually a macro combo with her that you cannot use after a certain point because the person you have to use it with is going to be leaving the party soon. Yeah, so Alys leaves the party, and there's a very short window of time where there's a macro that she and Rika can use together. Let's organize our party. Put the weaker ones in the back. And she won't be weak for long. Notice she starts out with decent hit points. For the most part, she'll end up becoming, I would say her attack damage is medium to high. Her resists are low to medium. And let's see, and her agility is very high. She is the fastest character in the game. So at this point, this is the point I say level up because you're going to be getting access to some certain side quests as well as access to, better leveling areas. So we're going to do a little off-screen grind real quick and then we'll come back. The target goal is, at this point, I would say get your people up to level 10-ish. Okay, so we've done some little off-screen grinding, brought our people up to more comparable levels. So this will get us to the next part of the game. We hit the really big little spots. So this is Nalya. It just has an inn here and it has a little bit of a mini story to it. It's suffered some bizarre destruction. Talk to the innkeeper, not the innkeeper, but citizens here. They don't really know. See? So this is what it's talking about here. This is a mechanical area, so if you bring stuff like Tri-Blaster or anti-machine setups, you will have a lot of money here. And notice how much money we're getting off this. This is also a secondary level up spot that if you, or rather it's better for grinding. Grinding money. Because you are going to begin to where chop costs spike. And this is an area you can revisit later if you really want to. Go to it early though, it's totally optional. And this is one of the better spawns for getting stuff. Ooh, and unfortunately he took out our guy. So this is the War Rin. There are different variants of this along the way, including one that's called Siren, which is a bit of a nod to the Phantasy Star IV boss. So these things hit very hard until you have ceramic gear. That flash shot is considered a fire attack. Go the wrong way. As you can see, we've been using this for a little bit of grinding. This will allow us to get some decent upgrades when we get to Aiedo finally. You can just skip this and go straight to Aiedo, but I like to come here for grinding early on. Decent XP, decent money. We're just gonna hurry through this. We have an escape still. We really get into trouble. Also, something forgot to talk about. Your inventory is limited, so don't keep don't try to hoard items like a Final Fantasy. It also adds to the difficulty in this game. The inventory management is a thing. Dude, guess we're gonna do this then. So this is a dungeon that gives you a little Easter egg about the Phantasy Star IV setting. And this is why I was saying a little while ago about it's unclear what time period Phantasy Star III is taking place in, because these world ships disappeared. They evacuated Parma 1,000 years ago, right? So time of Phantasy Star II. But it's not clear if 3 is one of those ships 1,000 years after it, or if it takes place at the same time as 2, or at the same time as 4. I've seen some people think it was 4, and that's something I should correct myself on. Is that it's unclear if it's 1,000 years after 2, or it takes place at the same time as 2, or at the same time as 4. See? And this is again a nod to 3, which takes place on one of these world ships. Now I'm pretty sure we've gotten all the possible loot here. Oh, there we go. Ceramic Mill, major upgrade for Chaz, and at this point in the game, it's one of your best armors. It gives you additional, some of these items will have additional properties that are not obvious in the equipment screen. Ceramic gear gives you extra resistance against fire. This is actually a big thing because some of the upcoming bosses, as well as monsters in general, are going to be packing high damage fire abilities. So this will greatly reduce the damage you take from it. Now we got this for getting out of here. Gonna replenish. Okay, now here we go. Aiedo. This is the main Hunter Guild area where you can start doing some Hunter Guild side quests, as well as some other side quests that pop up. Not very many. Now, I should note there are actually 2 different areas in here with weapons and armor. Notice what you can get here: Titan gear, carbon gear, and leather gear. There should be no reason ever that you need leather gear, so always upgrade when you can. Aiedo basically has, you know, the weapon and armor stores of up to the ceramic area. You can go ahead and give cheap upgrades because we have a lot of money. Take note of this. These guys are involved in a quest later. Now, if you want to access the second store, here it is. Sorry, it took a moment. And this is where the ceramic area is. These will be your best upgrades for, honestly, the rest of the, until you reach the Gy-Laguiah Tower, which is about an hour or 2 away from that. Go ahead and upgrade Rika's gear. She's way behind on gear. You got free ceramic sword and armor from, you'll go to the Wreckage, so save your money there. Keep hitting the right stick. You're used to that. Again, don't bother upgrading Grice's gear. Grice, Hahn, and Alys are very low priority at this point. I would definitely consider getting another ceramic mail suit. Rika can use suits as well as mail. You know, plate armor, you know, heavy armor, oddly enough. Let's sell the junk. Okay. This is the Hunting Guild, where we get our side quests. This is one you can do now, and there are some that will become automatically locked off if you do not do them before the story step that clears them. And here is Easter Egg. Maybe wonder why that's familiar, because it is the level 1 music from Fantasy Zone, which we have seen in our Yakuza playthroughs. I remember pointing this out too. And if you come all the way over here, Trimate and 1000 Meseta. So Trimate is a level 3 medicine. Level 3 medicines are very powerful. They restore hundreds of hit points at once. You use them sparingly until you can get to the point in the game where you can buy them freely. You are going to start seeing Dimates more though. Now let's show you the secret shop that you need to access to later. Whoops. So like I said before, some towns have extra areas, but you have to know how to access them. Here we can do this by walking to the left. Oh, not too far. You basically want to go around the perimeter. Go too far, you end up hitting the exit. See? And there we go. This is required for a Hunter's Guild quest later. If you ever get confused, you know, hit the talk button. So what we're going to do here is actually go all the way over here, back to where we were at the start. Now, this is a free resting spot. So if you're having trouble grinding or something, just run back to Aiedo. Between Nalya's Wreckage and this, hey, you got a good grind spot. Now here is an interesting enemy. If you kill one and then let do nothing, they will automatically fuse into a stronger monster. You know, that stronger monster will give more XP. This is an area you can revisit later, so if you really want to. Not much point. Okay, so first off, let's hit the inn. Alright, so this is another area of a secret zone. Go all the way over to this house. Laser slasher. So this is actually the earliest laser weapon you can get access to. Laser weapons are pretty decent and will become a mainstay of your upcoming area. Let's see. If I remember correctly, they are ones you cannot buy until early Dazolus. Amazing, we found a hooker. Man, these games are wild. Notice there's a tool shop where you can get level 2 Diamate. Diamates are level 2 magic. So each of the medicines are equivalent to a spell. So Monomate is equivalent to res. Diamate is equivalent to Gy-Res. Primate is equivalent to Na-Res. However, the healing spells will scale better because they work off your character stats, whereas medicines are kind of a flat one. You might be wondering, why did we not equip the laser slasher? Well, again, we're about to lose Alys, so not much point. Now you have a choice regarding your upcoming, the Hunter's Guild stuff. Can do it now, and the XP will go to the party, all 5 people here, or you can wait until after you have Rune. The choice is yours, but by the time you get Rune, you're going to be in an area where you can freely fight sandworms. So it's not much of a big deal if you go and do it now. I believe it is intended that you do it now, rather than wait until Rune. There. Okay, so this is the earliest in time you can encounter a sandworm. Sandworms they're kind of mini bosses. And they are ugly. Now, a sandworm is very weak against ice magic, so you're gonna be blasting them with blizzard. Ooh. I think we can get him to change. To change target. Well, screw that. We don't need her alive anyway. And this is also a bit of a level check. See whether or not you're decently grinded up. Take note, this sandworm is different from the ones that spawn out near the Ladia Tower. Those, think of this one as a baby worm, and those are the big boy worms. You try to treat them like you do here, you're in trouble. So notice these guys have a lot of hit points. And the big boy worms do more than just using tentacles. They do AoE attacks and they hurt like hell. So something to know about melee versus magic. Magic will always hit. Melee has a chance of missing. This doesn't apply to some skills, however. There we go. So it's actually kind of good that Rika and Chaz were alive as last party member standing. So XP is shared. The more party members alive, the more it's divided. The less alive, the less it's shared. So notice how much we got. We just got a huge amount per character. And since we got two of the core party members alive, that's a lot of XP thrown at them. And unfortunately, it means Gryce got some XP. And when Hahn and Gryce leave, and they can come back later, they will be at preset levels. You just got, look at 4 levels. Yeah, so we are very high up now, and it's good that at least Hahn did not get that because, again, they will not be in the party much longer. Fine, we'll heal here instead of there. And she'll just, denied one will just be like that. So the story, progression of the story is when you get more of them unlocked. So you have to progress the story, basically check back after major milestones. Like the upcoming one is a good time to check, as well as when you get access to the Zolus and more. Alright, so we're done here. We're going to move the story on. Right. Now, to start off here, this is Io's fort. There's actually a rare drop you can get here from an enemy called the Shadowblade. It drops its sword, which is a very strong weapon for Chaz at this point in the game. However, unless you really want to just grind it out, you don't need to get it. It's something cool though if you can get it to drop. Oh, there's a Shadow Saber right there. Ah, there we go. So this is Moon Dew. Dews are, they either do AoE party healing or they do resing, and one will actually do full heal and res. So this is the absolute earliest you can get one, but you cannot buy them until you are in the mid to late game. So this is why, again, Phantasy Star is a bit of a harder game, series versus Final Fantasy, because your resing options are pretty crap. Notice there are 2 towers to go through here. And here, so don't be baited. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Rare drop. That's pretty cool, huh? Notice it gives him a little bit more XP, strength. And since it's a rare monster drop, yeah. And that there is laser barrier, which is a shield. So you want to grab those 2 rare drops. Technically, Zio's fort is not a missable location because you have to go through it twice. But it's better to get those on your first run through, because the second time you come back, it's going to be to break the barrier, and then after that, when you complete the events there, the area is destroyed. Careful of those black bars. As you saw, they take you out, but you get items for doing it. Dude, didn't we just full heal? Yeah, I want to be like that, fine. We should have some Monomate, right? Dummy. And here, laser sword. So you can actually skip out on upgrading Chaz's weapon because you will get access to 3 strong ones. Compared to the Shadowblade, yeah. It's still, laser sword is a straight hard upgrade for, honestly, the rest of the, this arc. The rest of the Zio arc. Fine, we'll leave. So some areas are just straight up dead ends. Let's see, nothing here. Nice to actually get a turn off, but there's one shot in the picture. Okay, yeah, that is the same drop. And laser claw upgrade. So yeah, go ahead and give her this. Rika is gonna be your second, damage dealer, for the most part. He could just let us leave. No, you got to be all gangsta on us, huh? And here we go, boss. Just use your strongest single target attack. This point should be double slash, cross cut, and some more. Make sure to keep your party healed up as well. That force flash can be very damaging. And see, he used Foy, and since he has ceramic armor on, bam, no damage. Doesn't matter if she goes down or not. We don't want her getting the XP anyway. And there we go. On an arc, I got way more XP for doing a side boss than we did a story boss. It's crazy, huh? Alright, so upcoming move Hahn and Alys's gear. They are about to lead the party for a very long time. I'm gonna save this real quick. Up. The reason why I want to save this is because I want to show the hidden technique. I don't think we are. I don't think she got up that high, did she? Let me double check this real quick, because I don't think we have her grinded up enough where she can actually access what we're looking for. All right, so checking her to level. Oh, she's actually one level away from Moonshade, but she's 4 away. So the secret combination attack is using, lethal it's the lethal image combination attack. Unfortunately, we did not grind her up enough to access it. You combine Death from Alys with Illusion from, Rika, and it's a chance to instantly kill all enemies. Using, it only works on organic stuff, so biological enemies only. It's honestly interesting if you want to use it for niche grinding spots. It's not very useful inside the Wreckage, which is where I'll honestly go for that kind of grinding. Also, I think we need an adult. Also, take note where she said about medical power, because that's about to become very relevant. So she basically revives all dead party members. And it does revive, and it also does healing of living party members are already living. There's not much you can do here except just whatever, right? Notice we deal 1 damage because he has a special shield that we cannot deal with him. So you can either just fight and fail or just run. Oh, looks like my ex-wife. So this is a scripted battle. You cannot win this at all. And Alys is always targeted. So even if she's dead, Demi revives her before then, so the script will always target her. This is actually a very clever thing that the program is programmed to ensure that the game could not be put into a soft lock state. And this is also something very interesting. It's entirely possible to be at this point where Rika does not have access to Gy-Res. You will always talk about Gy-Res and always try to cast it. And this is how Hahn pretty much, depending on how you view about him, he's pretty much permanently left the party. In the in-game sequence, he can return as a recruitable party member. Alys does not. And the same with Demi. So let's talk about Demi. Alright, Demi is an android, and she's more of a defensive and healing, android. She's more of a support android. She can attack, but she's much better off not doing that. And notice that she gets gear, 200 rifles, and armor plating as her gear. As an android, she cannot use techniques. This is also true of Rune. Now, here is something interesting about the androids. The androids can be very tanky because they have the recover ability, which they can use either in battle or outside, outside of combat. This gives them a full heal. And I have had some runs, some final battles saved by the fact that Rune could just not die at all, because he could just fully heal. Stasis Beam is interesting because it works, I believe, only on organics. So you can stun them and give you a free turn. Spark is an instant kill against mechanical enemies. And this actually works against even mini-boss ones like the Life the Leader. Those things that give out huge amounts of XP. Barrier gives the party AoE magic resist, and medical power is, as we saw, it's a revive and party-wide healing of organics only. It cannot work on Demi because she uses recover, and she also, as an android, she also recovers hit points from walking around. In the in-game sequence, Demi is like number 2 best option. Simply because she gives you access to another android you could tank, as well as AoE healing and reviving. He's a very strong pick for an in-game sequence. But there is a superior choice to her. So let's go south. And that's just crazy bad luck that we got an encounter right there. That's not scripted. Notice these little panels in the starport, the spaceport, as well as certain areas like the satellite. You can see these and they'll give you full heal. It is very useful if you want to do some leveling up. Alright, so vehicles! In order to access the vehicle, you gotta go into inventory and pop it from here. So vehicles, you can, the Land Rover and as well as the Hydrofoil and the Ice Digger, you can travel over hazards like this. You also get different enemies. SP is your hit points. You also get no money, but you get XP, so your XP will also regenerate after every battle. You don't need to worry about trying to heal up or anything. Also, you can get in the fight on the quicksand, so yeah. You also now get access to more cities. So there's a tool shop here. Let's clean our inventory. Got a lot of junk we don't need anymore. Do not sell the laser slasher because you do have when you get to the Alys arc, there is another boomerang user. Give it to her. Laser barrier, keep it because you want to consider doing double shields, and that's going to be a very potent one. And if you need, there's an inn right there. We're gonna go get back into the Rover, go around some more because there are some other towns you can access. That is an area that you should do while you have Demi in the party because it gives her an upgrade. We can be going there in a moment. Right now, we want to get access to more towns so we can move around quickly. Oh, going the wrong way. So we want to go back over here. Yo, damn. Random encounters, man. You're going to be seeing a lot of this. Alright. So by now, I believe the hunter skill may have been updated slightly. Yep, there we go. So one extra job available. Which one's the right one? Remember that big dog we saw back in Krup? Yeah. Yeah. Strange. Oh, this may be thinking of a different one, aren't I? Yes. Sorry, bad info, sorry. Wait, did we not get the shortcake? Yeah, we did. Oh. Everything. Because we have to use the item. Let me check this one real quick because it's been a while since I had to do this specific one. Ah, so he's actually in, random. So we had to check Monson and Termi. This may not actually be him because he's supposed to have black spots. However, that's why we got baited. So we had 3 towns unlocked. And this is relevant later, that sword, so you want to have it. Looks like he's not here. Pick Monson. This is a great gear choice for, at this point. Might consider getting a shield for him. And consider the side mail. This is very strong defense for this point of the game. It's probably going to be your last upgrade until you hit Dozulus. Using the cursor instead of that. So if you talk to him, this actually starts the side quest for Fake Control Center, which is where you want to go. And it's also Fake System, not Center. What was that mutt? Sure is the one in Krup then. May have missed a trigger. Let's see. I'm gonna check and see if we missed a trigger. Ah, we probably did. So let's go back and do that. And we know he's in Krup. Ah, see? Try Monson. Let me go in there. So you can reset his location if there he is. Quick and easy, especially if you have you know, locations unlocked. Very profitable if you got the shortcut you first got there, because by the time you first come here, you should be able to afford it. Alright, so let's rest up, then go in. Where was that plate? There it is. You have to do this while Demi's in the party, otherwise she will put the system under control normally. Repair kits are useful. If you have an android that's doesn't have access to their healing, use that on them. It also revives them if they're incapacitated, you know, tapped during combat. Upgrade. So it's good to go ahead and just give the upgrades you get at this point to Demi, because Rune will get his own set, and anything after that is for Rune. Make sure to explore it around completely. Because we want to find Demi's special weapon. There it is. So the Phantom Measure is an interesting, ability that only Demi can get access to. What it does is AoE damage, and you can combine it with Air Slash to create a stronger AoE attack. There, just in case. Yeah, okay. I thought that's where we came in. So rule of thumb with the mechanical areas like this, the line does tell you where you need to go. Free weapon for guys, so that's why you want to kind of avoid getting them anything like struggle axe or broad axe. There are better options elsewhere. They're a laser barrier, so when we get Rune again, bam. And gear upgrade for her. Like it says, it's got the chance to, you know, stun. There it is. So first off, for your first duty here is to go inside the Lydia Tower, go up far enough to get Rune. And it's not very far in. Oh, and if you missed the Shadow Saber farming in Dallas Fort, this is another chance to get more spawned here. So you can try to get the Shadow Saber if you really wanted it. Now that he's back in the party, you'll see his levels increase slightly. So he is still strong, and he will be carrying your party to the next area, which is farming. We need to go and heal up again. So let's say, let's do that. Now, you saw the little infant worm, right? If you kill one, well, you kill all except one, you get a sandworm spawn. You have to wait for their turn, though. Now you get the big boy worms who just wear, you know, look at that worm over a mile and wear it like a scarf. Unload with all of your anti-cold, rather anti-fire. So basically, blizzard every turn. But if you don't have it, yeah, you're in trouble. Because we have Zan on him. And this is what I was talking about with the AoE. Yeah, so party wipe. Meaning if you somehow manage to be able to farm them at this point, you are very lucky. It will give out huge XP though. We'll see if we can, get lucky with the RNG. Ooh, there's Blizzard. Do 300 damage per turn. And it's okay if Grice goes down. He is not a core member. You want to get all the XP you can onto, those two. They have about, I think, 1,500 hit points, maybe 1,200. Ooh, that was a ton of damage. Let's see if we can get another, pull it off again. Because you need him alive to throw out Blizzard. Ah, well. Earthquake, so we lose anyway. Rewind and abuse the hell out of it. I think his action is not locked until he actually executes. Okay, so it's a turn executed, I bet. We go back to here, yeah. Better change, won't it? Okay, good. Went for her. There we go. So 3 alive will give you 6k XP a pop. This is your best leveling option until you get access to Dozeless. So I would honestly suggest using this area to get leveled up. This is a great catch-up spot. If you can somehow manipulate RNG to get the sandworms to not attack your core party members. So this is your big grind point. You are going to want to get all of your party members to at least level 20. Preferably 25, because this is where you're going to start seeing the difficulty spike in this game. And as you can see, we are taking a lot of damage even with strong gear. So this is a grind spot. Meaning we're going to go grind and we'll see you when we get back off screen. So just be patient. Okay, so we've done our grinding. You'll see we're in the low 20s. Rune is almost in the upper 20s. At this point, this is actually a point where you want to get Rune up to 26. It takes a little longer because he requires more worms to kill due to XP scaling. But you can see why. Nafoy and Nawat are the level 3 magics of fire and ice. Nawat will do an extreme amount of damage by itself. So you can use some turns to, instead of spamming Blizzard, you can just back him with that directly, and it's still do the same damage as a low-level Blizzard. The Foy is very useful because there are some enemies, some bosses upcoming that are very weak against fire. So you have a low-cost nuke. And you see we have 3 uses of medic power now, which can be useful if we get into an emergency. Double slash is up to 8 uses, which is a very good, damage option at this point now, instead of being weak when we first got her. Disrupt is AoE, and it's very useful if you need to screen clear quickly. You notice we got Git, which is level 2 lightning. And we have more AoE with air slash. So if you'll notice, Grice and Demi are lower level. This is intentional. Again, like I said, don't invest too much in them because they are temporary party members, and they will be unlockable again later, and they'll be leveled up to catch up. So you don't have to put too much effort into leveling them because they will level up normally. off screen. And now we are ready to complete the rest of the Gy-Laguiah arc. Let's keep on moving. And music is a remix of the power music from Phantasy Star 1. So this is another maze. And sometimes it can be unclear. I was sure I went the right way. It's been a while, again. And here we have Stardew. So this is another option, another point where you can get a dew item, but you have to go looking for it. It becomes viable after completion of the Gy-Laguiah Tower arc, which is pretty deep into the mid game. And explore around, there's really only one way up. We see if we can stop getting the battle every 5 seconds. Basically, go the way same way you went before to get Rune. You guys want to play? Well, let's play. Re-escapade. Now, the Gy-Laguiah Tower can be revisited, so if you missed the Stardew on your first visit, you can come back later. And you see there are items over there we want to grab. Well, if we could, again, if we weren't getting a second battle every 2 seconds. This is, like I said before, a flaw of the old school games. You have no way of avoiding battles. It will force you into it. And they end up being grind heavy just because eventually you're going to get to the part where you can't run away, so they're going to make you fight. So if I remember correctly, that way it's actually upwards. You have to come down from the upper spot. This is also a strong, right here we just got a strong item for Rune. And this works for a fairly long time into the mid game, because again, you're not really equipping him too much with anything other than shields. His armor can be left alone. Also an Easter egg, as this is at the ultimate armor of Noah all the way back in Phantasy Star 1. Noah is the original Lutz. And there's Stardew. Now, if you're struggling at this point in the game, the Stardews you get here can be pretty useful. Just use them sparingly because you cannot replenish them until you hit the end of the Gy-Laguiah Tower arc. Alright, boss incoming. Notice he's weak, strong against fire, so don't use fire. That's why. Also, I noticed he hits hard, even though we are fairly leveled up. Now, what happens when we use the Foy? Sorry, you know what? I died. Big damage, 300 points. And if he had used Fire Breath sooner, that would have been included. He's weak against, ice. Generally speaking, they will never use the element of something they are weak against. They will always use the opposite. So notice how much damage he's doing and how much TP it costs. As a 300 damage nuke for only 10 TP. Meaning, as long as you keep Rune alive and healed up, he can solo carry this fight because of attacking the weakness. And at this point in the game, Rune is a permanent party member, so he will always be there in fights. This is why I strongly recommend getting a watch before moving, before going to the Ladea Tower, because that is a huge damage nuke. It can really change the fight against this guy who is a little bit stronger than your usual bosses at this point in the game. Dio is still the big boy, though. And if I remember correctly, the second one is from Phantasy Star 1. And people talk about JRPGs and Aerith's death. Where do you think Final Fantasy got the idea from? Right here. This is the Aerith's death moment of Phantasy Star. If you don't count Nay's death. Nay and Alys dying, both of those are the Aerith dies moment of Phantasy Star. Nace hits a little bit earlier in the game, though. And honestly, you can make an argument for this one being more because Chaz is the main character here, and Alys is more or less his mother figure on top of being his companion, versus Nay being a companion of Rolf. So it's kind of it's one of the debate, but I would say this is more impactful than Nay's death was. And plus, unlike later versions of Phantasy Star 2, Alys doesn't come back. Yeah, I went there. Okay, and he gave us a free rest because that was a scenario where we were at an end. Now that we have the second one, we can actually go inside, Zala's castle. What about the basement? So off we go. Oh, there it is. Now, this is the last point you come to the castle normally. If you missed anything from the first exploration, you get it now. Because when you complete the events here, the castle will be destroyed. Make sure to explore around and get mystical items since it is a one-time visit area. And by one-time visit, I mean you can come back out if you're struggling in the area, but when you complete it here, again, this is some of you over there you do not revisit. You complete the events. Ah, crap! I didn't mean to. Well, whatever. Free money. Alright, you want to die so bad? Fine. Give us some peace. Go ahead and give the gear you get in this area to Demi. Mostly because when you get Rune as a replacement, he has superior gear. And you do not need to worry about holding on to gear for the androids. Rune will come with better gear. Go ahead and give it to Demi. So the game does a pretty good job of gating gear depending on where you are in the story. You can level up and overpower certain areas. But some gear does make it better, like before. Remember what I said about the ceramic mail, for example. Okay, I think that's actually the way to... I want to go check out... Well, we're going to get an ambush every 5 seconds. Yeah, we do need to go through here. So, I'm trying to get over to that chest. Again, you want to get every single chest item here. And just like any other JRPG, you're going to be seeing recolors of bosses and more. Early plasm weapon. Plasm is the upgrade to laser. Here we go, final area. Make sure to save. You know, if you're using something like this that allows a quick save, use it. This is a boss battle. I'm gonna go ahead and remove his weapon because he's obviously not gonna be doing much, and we want to sort out later. His gear is, you can leave his gear on otherwise. Demi can keep her gear because, again, Rune will have better stuff. First off, let's heal up. Does anyone else have busted up we were? So we're not going to make a macro for this. We are going to have her use Cycle 1 on her first turn. Now we have to be Cycle 1 so we can take out his barrier. There is another boss later on that uses a similar thing that we can in fact use to screw him over. Have Rika, or if you don't want, if you set up a macro, have that to be the first one used. Otherwise, have Rika or your fastest person use it. You only need to use it once during the battle. Barrier will increase your magic resist. Now, it's unlikely, but for some reason or another, you have Rune leveled up enough to use the FS skill. The Grand Cross combo does a severe amount of damage at this point. We're talking at least 600 damage. Here's the catch. That combo only works against evil targets. Of which there are a lot, especially the bosses. You will do a trouble amount of damage if for somehow you have that unlocked for Rune. I believe, let me check. Let me see it. I believe that is actually a level 30 spell. Let's see. Oh, that's actually level 29. So if you are very heavily grinding sandworms, you can actually have that. Get 3 levels off from it. It is a powerful ability against evil on its own, but combined with the crosscut, it becomes AoE death for evil. Just off damage alone. It doesn't have a instant kill aspect though. Oof. Notice he's resistant against ice. But he is, it takes a lot more damage from fire. Also, take note of Erosion ability. That is one you need to watch out for in mid and late game because it does severe amount of damage to androids and less to non-androids. It's a powerful ability against Rune. It's one of the few things that a boss can do late game is a properly set up Rune. And it's okay if those two go out because they are not your core party members. In fact, you kind of want to manipulate it so, you know, yeah. So Zio is going to be a big roadblock. If you are in the low 20s to mid 20s, you should be able to easily clear him. Go in less than 20, you are going to struggle a lot. Trust me, I noticed because I used to struggle against him all the time back in the day when I was a kid. He is definitely a roadblock boss. He is a stat check. If you don't have the abilities that you should have at this point, you're going to struggle. And again, overleveling is very rewarded here if you have access to effects, like I said. And there we go, boss down. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, you may have noticed, but androids recover if they get incapped, they'll come back after the battle when someone lives. I was actually wrong about Nervous. You can return to it, and it will still have battles. I remembered something wrong about this area, so sorry. Nervous can be returned to Zio's Fort cannot be. But it's still better just to do it first time around so you don't have to come back later, because there is no reason for you to come back later except for missed items. Alright, so if you go to the spaceport, you are forced to go to Zelan. Part of the story, so go ahead and do it. Loot everything here. You can come back later, but you get great gear for coming in doing this. Another plasma claw. So if you missed the one in Nervous, just go ahead and get another one here anyway. Now we're gonna leave that. We're gonna save here, and you get an Easter egg if you don't get that last chest. I'll go over Rune in just a moment. And that's the Easter egg. So, if you go to Zelan, you are forced to try to go to Kuran. And we will not be able to return to Matavia for a while. This is one of the few times you can see a monster in a cutscene like this. Notice the high detail. And despite him coming off like a boss with boss music, you could easily insta-kill him, so he's just a regular mob. Despite being just a regular mob, he gives out a lot of XP. I believe that's because he's actually a mob from a later dungeon. Okay, so once we get control of the party again, we gotta go over our 2 new party members. Alright. So let's talk about Rune. Rune is an android, and he is a much more tankier, more DPS oriented version of Demi. You see his attack power skyrocketed already. Very likely he will be superior outright to Chaz. Notice his skills. He has some of the same skills that Demi does, but he does not have stasis or medical power. He does, however, get access to more damage-based abilities, as well as the flare ability, which is a potent non-elemental attack. Generally speaking, Rune will be your main tank at this point in the game. He is also a permanent party member, so we're going to put him in front. This means he'll get most of the aggro. Now let's talk about Raja. So, you remember a little while ago when I said Demi was the second best choice for the in-game sequence? Meet the first best choice. Raja is busted as hell. Here's why. He is a healer, but he also has some magic power. He is a cranked up white mage. This guy makes Demi look like a chump. So notice he has all the status effect cures, as well as AoE healing and single target healing. As he levels up, he will get access to the level 2 and 3 versions. He also has resurrection magic, which, unless you have it on Rune, which is likely by now, or possibly Chaz, we will likely have been starved for it. But here is what really makes him stupid. Miracle works on androids. It's an AoE heal that works on androids. That thing is beyond busted. Ataraxia is also another reason why Raja was a prize to pick in the end game, because it restores TP, meaning you can stay out in the field longer and level up spend more time leveling up before having to go back to the end room. Holy Blessing is AoE magic defense, if I remember right. Let me double check that. I want to be sure, because I don't want to give out wrong info. I actually never use it much. Okay, so the wiki doesn't list it. Okay then. So it just lists it for mostly the main party. Unfortunate. Huh. Temporary units as well. Anyway. Holy Word is something that works against evil. Same with Saint Fire. Those two will do more damage. And you can actually get some crazy combos with them. Let me see. Whoops. There is a combo that he does that's insane. Yeah, Purify Light. Okay, so Efes, which Rune is very close to getting, plus Holy Word means you can insta kill AOE, in AOE evil enemies. For the most part, that's very useful in the final dungeon because everything there is evil. But for most of the time, when you're using Raja in the main story, before he gets forced out of the party, there's niche uses for it. All right, so let's get back to this. And by the way, these are towns that existed in Phantasy Star 1. You can also get new upgrades here, but most of these are just for your wizard and healer. I would suggest holding off, because those two should be considered lower priority for gear upgrade. So for the most part, you can't really explore around. But right now, we're going to grab these, towns for that. The reason why you can't explore around is because there are huge ice walls in the way. May not be able to access the other town right now. Nope. Alright. So this is a town named after a character from Phantasy Star 2, space pirate named Tyler, who saved the party. And you can get ceramic gear for some reason or another if you really want to. As well as silver gear. Again, you can largely skip the silver step. It's not worth it. See? It is actually what happened. You meet Tyler during the events of Phantasy Star 2. So you need to talk to an NPC to get going. Now we're missing a trigger somewhere. am I correct? We need to find the rumor. And see, this wall ice you cannot travel around in. You get the ice digger. There we go. So yeah, we missed the trigger. You need to come over here and get this done. Then it'll set the flag for you. Once you have the event flag done, bam. This is a very short dungeon. Now you have a handy spaceport. If you come back, the NPCs will remark about, the spaceport. And now you can return to Matavia. I would honestly suggest you're doing it to check and see if there are new Hunter's Guild missions available, as well as doing some leveling up. With Raj in the party, yeah, time to bring him up to speed because you are going to be going up against, another boss with him. Aha! So we have 2 more available. So you can only take on 1 at a time. This is actually a very quick quest. I was just doing it. Yeah, that should be the student dorm. So, it's a cult. This means you can go all the way back to Kadary and the church there. Since Zal's dead, everybody's been released from his control. Okay, now this is something I forgot. If you go to Termi, you can get the Perlamate. Wrong area. Need to go to the souvenir shop. So when you come here originally, you should pick up the Parallel Mate as well as the Alys sword, because both of those are used in Hunter's Guild quests. Why are we walking all the way out? I forgot which room she was in. But she actually may be back in Piata. Whoops. I wasn't paying attention, alright? Don't be like me. Pay attention. There we go. Yep. In room. How does he even know we're holding it? Right, so Monson. Oh, huh. That's the way out normally. It's a quick battle against the boss. Ah, good XP. Gaizen, nice. That's going to help our farming against sandworms. Wait, why are we walking out? Out the way, people, out the way. So quick and easy money. And at this point again, we have access to teleportation magic, so you don't have to worry about spending too much time moving around. Oh, we went to the wrong spot. Wait, no, that is the right spot. Never mind. Sorry, I wasn't thinking. I was thinking something else. So at this point, we're going to save, and this is where we're going to stop. Now, what we're going to do here is do some off-screen grinding and bring up the party to as close to the 30s as we can before we get to the point where it takes too many, multiple worm kills. This is a great time to level up using Raja, as well as using level 2 and 3 Blizzard and attack skills. Everything we've gotten so far is going to make killing sandworms quicker. The best way to kill them is by blasting them with, improved Blizzard. By that I mean a Blizzard is just Zan and Watt, but level 2 Blizzard is using Gy-Watt and Gy-Zan, and then level 3 would be using Watt and Nazan, but we don't have that, so we have level 2.5 basically with Gy-Zan and Watt. This is a very potent nuke at this point in the game for Rune. So hey, attack the weakness and sandworms will drop quick. We are starting to get to the point where the sandworms are not insta killing either, so we can spend less time having to worry about healing and rezzing and more time damaging. You do get to a snowballing point at around the 25 range. So anyway, we are going to do that leveling, and then we're going to continue on with the rest of the Kuran Arc. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.